Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sunday Reflections. So, as you know, I was doing daily reflections during COVID-19, and I paused it at the 50th episode. And I decided that I like doing it and I like chatting with people. So, why not resume, but once a week? So, Sunday Reflections at 5 o'clock. And today with me, I have Pilar Velasco. She is a peer of mine at the Yale World Fellows program. And in, other than being a Yale World Fellow, she is a Spanish journalist and investigative journalist. So good afternoon, Pilar. It's evening over here. So good evening to everybody else who's watching. Welcome to Sunday Reflections. Okay, I seem to have lost Pilar. So, well, these last few months have been extremely reflective for me. One is I haven't spent in the last few years so much of time in Mumbai, so it's been a pleasure to be at home, just get into a routine. But it's also a regenerative time. I've been exercising, I have been focusing on my mental health and also chatting with different people. So it's been really, really restorative. I've done a lot of wonderful things as well, like start this chat show, Daily Reflections, and now Sunday Reflections. And I also have another series called Inclusive Cities every Wednesday. So it's been great. And now that we have Pilar back. Pilar.
Yes, I switched to the mobile.
So how are you? Okay, never mind.
When we were trying to connect, the connection just fell, so I couldn't hear you. Good morning.
Yeah, it's sometimes you have tech issues and you just have to learn to adapt. So tell us, you're in Madrid, right? How is it in Madrid? Are you in lockdown phase? Are you allowed to get out? What is it?
Yes, I'm in Madrid. I'm in Madrid since March. I was, when the state of emergency was declared, it was one day after United States declared the lockdown. And I think 1 week before the lockdown was declared in India. It was 16th of March. And Madrid has had one of the hardest lockdowns in the world. We were for so many weeks the city that was more hit by the coronavirus. It was one of the main focus in the world. So the lockdown was so hard. We were allowed to do nothing, just stay at home, go out to go to the supermarket or pharmacies. Now it's getting released. The government has designed 4 phases to start releasing the restrictions. And we are now, Madrid, in phase 2 of 4. That means that we can go out for work, to make sports, to supermarket. Restaurants are starting to open. Tomorrow we are in this phase 2, tomorrow Monday. So restaurants will be open again. People are like starting to go out and feeling comfortable. And yes, the restrictions are releasing. So we're kind of back to this new normality. Slow, at least in Madrid. Not in the rest of Spain is better. Because the rate of contagious is kind of 0.2%, which is good. But Madrid, we have to take care. It's a city with 6 million people. And there were some weeks so hard when we had like 500 death people daily. So the total death was so high. So it's a city that has to take care about how to release the restrictions in order to don't get a second wave soon. So
yes, we saw that. We saw that Spain was, one of the top countries at the start of this pandemic that was affected, and I'm so glad that now y'all are over that hump, and you can go out. But just since we are still in lockdown in Mumbai, can you share? Yeah, we are still in lockdown, so I don't know what it is to go back to normal. So can you share a little bit about what is your routine like? Do you have to go through temperature scanners? Do you have to wear the mask all the time, even at the studio, even at your workplace? Do you have to maintain social distancing at your workplace? Like, what measures your company has taken? Because you're
Yeah,
also a news broadcaster, so how do you,
and
what
and
is it like?
that's the point, Elsa. That's the point. What's next? Because we are going to get release of these lockdowns sooner than later. Maybe you will be released of the lockdown in 2 weeks, 1 week. It doesn't matter. What matters is what's next, and because the new rules are going to be there for the next months, at least for the rest of the year. What are these new rules? You have to wear masks everywhere. It's a new norm, and also you can get a penalty. You can get a bill from the police if you don't wear it. So you have to wear masks in the street, and if you cannot maintain 2 meters of this social distance, you have to wear masks. And you cannot assure that you can maintain social distance in the street, because sometimes got crowded in a city like Madrid. So you have to wear masks in the street, of course, in closed space like supermarkets, like the theaters will be open half of the capacity. So in theaters, restaurants, also in the office. Some companies like mine, big companies, are going, we're not allowed to go back to the office. We're going to be back to the office at the middle of September. And even in the middle of September, they will realize if we're ready to go back. We're Cadena Ser Prisa Media is a big company. We're like maybe 300 people in my office, just in my office in Madrid. So yes, my company, we will be back to the office. We will be working remotely until September. What else? Even the kids have to wear masks. So you can see the parents like putting the small face masks to the kids. Yeah, masks are the new normality. Social distance, of course. Gyms will not be open again. You just can go to the gym, for example, if you have an appointment with your trainer. I mean, social crowds are forbidden for sure, are not allowed. Yeah, social distance is a new rule. And as I told you, there is going to be a new law. Also this week, on Tuesday, the government will approve a new law for the next months, because the state of emergency will be over the 21st of June. It has been polemic, like, because a state of emergency is a strong law, and it means a restriction of freedoms, of freedom of movement, and basic social rights. So the state of emergency will be over the 21st of June, and we will have these new rules about social distancing and masks for 2020 for sure, and we'll see 2021.
Pilar, you're a journalist. And when you talk about the state of emergency, whilst all of us understand the reasoning for the lockdown and the state of emergency, as a journalist, what is your responsibility to track accountability and report back report back to the public about the realities? Can you share a little bit about what it has been like for you in Spain?
Wow, Elsa, it has been one of the most challenging moments to cover. It has been so different because, I mean, when let's think about a hard situation for journalists to cover. September 11th, September 11th, a horrible terrorist attack. In Madrid, we had a terrorist attack in 2004. It was March 11th from Al Qaeda too, and that was a challenge to cover such an event. But now, journalists has to be at home. The world was changing. We were in a pandemic. We had to cover a pandemic, being at home. And of course, we were allowed to go out. But where you could go out as a journalist to cover this in the worst week of the pandemic, when you, as a journalist, as a human being, you were a target also, because you could, if you went to houses to talk to the people that got contagious, or to talk to the victims, the family victim that has lost people from the pandemic, you have to be so careful because maybe you had the virus and you didn't know it, and you were talking to old people. So, and you came back home, and it was not my situation, but a lot of my partners had kids, and you go back home from covering this, and you have your family where you can be you can contact, you can contact them. So it was as a challenge. That's the human part. Also, the accountability was so hard because we were in such an emergency moment, and we had to track data. We had to track government measures. We had to track if, for example, it was such a polemic thing in Spain where the old people in residence were not allowed to go out. So they were dying in residence. And it was, we had the feeling that the government and the local governments were not allowing all people to go to the hospital. So they were dying in the residence. In what situations? They had not Medicare. We had this sanitary collapsing, like in New York, like in some cities, like in Milan. I mean, we had this sanitary collapsing of the system, the healthcare collapse, and it was so hard to track what was going on. So we were working so many hours, exhausting, working at home, not in the office, going out. You could not work with your team. I mean, you could work remotely, but you could not like call your team and go in a group to cover. I mean, these normal things they used to do, we couldn't. And it was such a challenge. Now it's been, I mean, now we're back to normal life to cover as a journalist, but during the worst week was such a stressful thing. It's true that there is good lessons. We had learned from lessons from this pandemic. And you know how the newsroom work? Sometimes we're like separate in silos. So I cover justice and national security, and you cover economic, and you cover education. And it doesn't work as a whole when you have such a human crisis. So you have to focus all your energy to cover a pandemic. So we were like, all of us, we were like taking care of each other, realizing who's covering this, what can I put here to make the information better. We were sharing everything, and we were covering one topic, and we were so focused on one topic, putting the best of us, working in such a big team, trying to reach out our colleagues from other countries to see, okay, how are you covering this in New York? What is working for you in Milan? So yeah, we had so good lessons to learn from the pandemic, and some challenges that we have to work better on it.
So in many countries, including mine, sometimes they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear the harsh facts. And when journalists, present the data and the number of deaths, in this case, in this pandemic, people were dying. And if you highlight the number of cases, which is, true to reality, local governments don't like it. Were you facing pushback in Spain as well? And how hard it was to stay true to your values of being a journalist?
That has been a topic in Spain too, a polemic topic in Spain too, because the government was giving some data, and the data didn't match with reality, and we knew it. So how Spain is organized, we have the federal government and the national government, but we're a federal country. We have local governments too, 17 local governments already. So the local governments are from different political parties. So you have the political fight between each others, like the government from Madrid, which is conservative, fighting with the government of Spain, which is Democrat. And so they were fighting with the data. They were hiding data to each other. So we were like pushing the government, because at the end is the maximum responsible. I mean, is the government to give us good data. What happened? It was we have these press conferences where the government tell you the data, and we were requesting the raw data. Let us work with the data. We want to check it. We we're in 2020. We don't want you as a ministry telling me that 20,000 people has died. I want the data. I want to check every community, every town, every neighbor. We want to check if it has been more deaf people in poor communities than in the center of Madrid. And that has been so polemic because the government was not giving us the data. Also, OMS, the World Health, OMS is the word in English, or W.
World Health Organization.
Thank you so much. We're contradicting also the data from Spain, and so they were like, no, this week has happened also. They put 3,000 more deaths from Spain. The government was saying, no, let us check the data with you. So it was so hard. I'm sure in India was worse, but in Spain has been a topic for sure. And we're pressing the government to give us the real data. And we just had sometimes PDFs, like, here is the PDF, here is the graphics. No, this is not transparency. Transparency is other thing, is release the data. We have the right to know the data because we have a transparency law in order to do that, to do the accountability, to make you accountable. So that has been an issue, and it's been an issue, and it has an end. We're fighting with the data so hard in Spain to realize what I'm telling you. How many people, how many tests, for example, how many people is been testing, how many people is been tracking for coronavirus, and it's a mess. So we're having the same challenge everywhere.
You're an investigative journalist, and you are very well known for the case where you highlighted corruption in local government in Madrid. Can you share a little bit about that?
About that? Wow. You know what? I love it. Everything that has happened before the coronavirus looks like 100 years ago. Yeah. But it has been useful to work also in the coronavirus because accountability has to be always local at some point. And yes, I was working in corruption cases in Madrid a long time ago. It affects the former governor. The former governor, he ended up a year at prison for different corruption cases that me and my company were working so many, like at least 3 years ago. It has been a while. In that case, we were tracking water contract supplies and bribes from Latin America. Also, they were using this bribe to finance for illegal financing of the political party. When I started working in this case, I was pretty young. I was young, and we were not used to work transnationally as we do now. So what I learned was, like, in any local case, when there is corruption and when there is bribes involved, when there is economical corruption, you always have to go abroad because that's where they put the money. I'm sure it's the same in India. They never keep the money in the same bank where they live. They hide the money abroad. So that was so important to work transnationally, and also to work on how corruption affects and impacts people, local communities, how it affects to local economy. And that works also in the pandemic too. Not right now, because we are in an early moment of this pandemic, but now, for example, we have the European Community, European Union, and the Central Bank, the European Central Bank, is going to release such a huge amount of money, $750 billion to Italy economy, to Spanish economies, to French economy. We the countries, as a country, we have to develop policies in order to help the impact of the social impact of the of the coronavirus. So we have to track these policies, we have to track this money. And these lessons from the past, working in local, tracking the former governor from Madrid, is going to be so useful to the next step, to track how the money is going to be used in Spain, in Europe, in the United States, etc. We have to see how are they going to use the money.
We are already seeing in India where a lot of the money that is meant for medical supplies are being misused. Like the prices of those supplies are 3 or 4 times or even higher than the normal rate. So somebody is making money on those, and even the quarantine centers, the hotels, etc. So yeah, so that's the role of an investigative journalist. And during this time, during the pandemic and the lockdown, the number of domestic cases has spiked. Online harassment has spiked. Were you seeing the same in Spain? Because we did get reports in a lot of European countries and the UK, China, US. They were seeing as much as 25% increase in helpline calls, and so also in India. So, can you share a little bit about what you were noticing? And this is also a question from Camilla Chapella.
Hmm. I will share with you the data later because I don't have the data here, but it has been an issue since the beginning of the pandemic. The Ministry of National Affairs realized that since the first week, women were not able to denounce their the victims were not able to denounce because they were living with the with with the partner who was uh, mistreating them. So it was what the ministry did was they developed at least three different programs. It was a particular telephone number and an app. Alert Cops was the name in English. Alert Cops. So the victims could download the application and they could call the police without tracking. It was a silent alert, so the police could knew that someone was being threatened in a house. So the police show up, and no one could know who was calling. That was one thing. Of course, the mail that goes directly to the police, and specific teams from the police, from the ministry, they have increased the number of police that they were taking care of these cases because the number has spiked, as you said. The calls has increased more than 150% in 1 month.
Wow.
Yeah, more than 150. And the other data is kind of also like relevant because of that, because they couldn't announce. So the police was doing interventions every day, and also the law allows, and also the ministry, and I think that was important. We had this press conference. Now we're getting better with press conference, but we used to have press conference every weekend, Friday, Saturday, every day. But the ministry and the government went out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when the people is at home. So the ministry was calling to the population, like, if you hear something, if you see something, please call us. We're going to keep this information discreet. But if you're a neighbor and you're hearing something, because in the lockdown, of course, you hear everything, please call. And that was so useful as a measure to encourage people because it was affecting women and it was affecting children too. Women
That's
and
good
children.
because anonymous reporting is so much easier for women and girls or anyone else to come forward and share their story. And I'm glad that they did that. Um, yeah, so how was the lockdown for you? Did you cope well? What are the new skills you learned?
You know that I finally ordered one closet this weekend. I was like, I can't believe I have been locked down for 3 months and my closets are a mess. Because it was fun when people were telling their daily life in the radio, and they were like, my house is perfect, it's totally clean, I have ordered all my closets. And I was like, I'm doing so bad, even in the lockdown. I've been doing well. It's true that I was working a lot, Elsa. It was such a stressful situation, and I do national security, which it was a topic because the national security ministry is the one who takes care of the situation. So we had so much work, like, and I couldn't sleep well at the beginning. I was sleeping like 2-3 hours with anxiety, having bad dreams. At the beginning, I was thinking of so much about my family. My dad, we couldn't see our family. So I was like calling hey dad, are you doing well? Yes, okay, dad is doing well. Hey man, how are you doing? Man was doing so some days. So I was calling my sister, like, please take care of man. I'm working so much. Like, call her. I mean, it was 24 hours for so many months. So I was taking care of the family as best as I could, doing Skype and trying to, inventing activities like, okay, we're going to watch this movie together. We're going to cook together. I was horrible cooking. I've been working for 15 years now, and I never eat at home because I leave my place in the morning and I come back at night after work. We have these horrible schedules in Spain, like all the Latin countries, like we finish at 9 p.m. and there is press conference at 9 p.m., which is, hey guys, this is not good for families. So I was working so hard, but I was not cooking. I was cooking on weekends. Yeah, I was cooking well. And I was worried about getting the virus as everyone because I was working sometimes on the street. So I was so careful, like, okay, eat well, eat fruits, vegetables, fish, meat if you can. I was taking care of that. Taking care of the family. Now I'm back to, I'm fine. But it was like 1 month, which is, as everyone in a lockdown, we were stressed. We were stressed out. I was getting it was so important to get the support of your friends when I was doing, for example, one of our 2 World Fellows, Silvia from Mexico, Silvia Aguilera from Mexico, Elpida Ruca from Greece, that she was moving from Geneva to Greece. We were having these calls, like, and that was important to support each other, to know that we were not alone, that we were going through the same psychological moments, because I'm sure that happens to you. Is 3 months of lockdown, you have your moments. And that was important, to reach out to your friends, to know that, okay, I'm having a great week and you're having a horrible week. Okay. So, but I was doing well. I was doing well. Now is when you have to, how are we going to work in this new normality? How are we going to meet friends? And my dad, for example, was yesterday, he came to visit me, and I was worried because it's like, this virus has this thing where you can have it and you don't know. I haven't been testing. There is so many people that haven't been tested in Spain. And even if I feel I'm feeling great, you don't know. So when my dad was like getting so close, he's 62, 63, I was like, please, dad, don't get so close. I'm getting nervous. Imagine that I have it. So I have still this paranoid with social distance. In Spain, everyone gets kisses. We are a Latin country. So I was having dinner with some colleagues last night, and they were going to give me a kiss, and I was like, hey, no, guys, kids are over.
So are you doing the Indian namaste? Are you doing the Indian namaste?
Is this the Indian thing? I like it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We're doing stupid things. We don't know what to do. It's like, hey, I cannot hug you. Okay, dude. But not even. It's like, we're just like getting used to don't hug each other. Yesterday in the New York Times, I read an article about how to hug in the post-pandemic. And it was like, okay, give hugs looking at the opposite side so quick so you don't breathe. Yeah, and I was like, okay, I'm not even comfortable with that. So let's take care, guys. This pandemic has been horrible everywhere, especially in countries as Spain. So my point is,
what was it like in the restaurant?
But don't forget where we come from.
What was it like in the restaurant? Did you have to sit like 6 meters apart or 2 meters apart?
The restaurants are still open. I had a dinner in a friend's house. The restaurants in Madrid are still closed. You just can deliver. The terraces are open. And the terraces, you have your sanitizer on the table, and the bartender is trying to be 1 meter away. So when you pay, you use your credit card, like. But young people don't care about these measures. So I get so nervous when I see like 15 teenagers like hanging out in the street because it's summertime in Spain. And it's like, hey guys, take care, please. You have to remember where we're coming from. We have to go back to normal life, but we have to take some measures. And I feel like a grandma, like I want to tell every teenager, like, please take care. Don't drink from the same can.
What's next for
Yeah.
Pilar? What are you looking forward to?
What was next?
What are you looking forward to?
Wow, you know what, Elsa? I was using you know, that I always, we have 5 weeks of vacation in my company, which is, we have such a privilege. So I always wish to go to different countries, to New York, to Washington, to make some courses, to try to, I mean, I think I'm not going to do anything professional this summer. I'm going to try to relax for a couple of weeks. It's going to be hard to travel, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to see my family with they live abroad. That's in the personal level. What's next professionally? I think I'm going to take a rest this summer because I think we have the greatest challenge of our lives. We have to be so ready to work on what's next. Everything is changing, Elsa. What can I tell you? I mean, the Red Dot Foundation, you're there, you're working on what's next. So me as a journalist, I'm in the same point, like, it sounds idyllic, but I'm in this point, which is like, I'm in the crisis, in 2008 crisis, I was, maybe because I was younger, I was taking care of my job. Like, oh, I can't lose my job. I have to keep, I'm more now like, I have to do my best. And if I can't, it's the only thing that I have to do. I mean, if I can't do my best here, we have to do our best for the world. And I know this sounds so idyllic, but if we don't do it now, when? We have to, as a journalist, we have such a challenge like inequality, mm, abuse of power, poorness, human rights, women's rights, climate change. We have to explain such a complex war. And I think people deserve for us to do our best. So I'm kind of focusing that, like, it's not about, yeah, it's like, relax. This summer is kind of hard. We have to chill a little bit because, I mean, we cannot move so much this summer. So relax, focus, and think about where can you do your best next year. I mean, next year means September, August. And I'm kind of focused on that. Yeah.
Well, on that note, thank you so much.
What about you? What's next?
I'm still in lockdown. I'm still in lockdown. So I am just waiting for the instructions to unlock and get back to normal. And once I do that, I mean, once that happens, then Preet and I are going to have a glass of wine together. That's the first thing we're going to do.
You know what
Apart
I
from
did?
that, yeah, tell me.
Oh, I hope we can see each other soon. You know what I did at the beginning of the lockdown? I went to the supermarket and the wine was, I mean, it was empty. There were not even beers. So I ordered a box of wine, and it's full in the lobby. I see every day that the box of wine, when it came, I was like, I'm safe. I have my wine. It's there. I haven't drink even a bottle. I was so stressful. So I was like, every day I end at 11 p.m. working, and I was like, I'm dead. And I like to drink with friends. So I'm waiting for all of us to be able to see each other.
I think, yeah, I think more than the wine, it's about just meeting your friends and not chatting like across the screen. Looking at you and chatting with you is wonderful, but it's so different in person, and I miss that, and I'm waiting for that, and I hope it is soon, but I think it's not going to be that soon either. Over here, things are really bad. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. All we can do is stay positive and support each other, like you just said. Check in with friends, find out how they are doing. One week you are doing fine, one week somebody else is doing better than you or worse than you. So extend that help possible. So thank
Yes,
you
this
so much,
crisis.
Pilar.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
I'm going to end this broadcast. We can still continue chatting because we have lots to talk about. But thank you. And please join me next Sunday at 5 p.m. I have Rashmi Tiwari, who's the director and founder of the Ahan Foundation, which works with tribal girls. So that's going to